Head and Financial Affairs and Migration Spokesman, and a presumptive leadership candidate is Stephen Wolfe. Never knowingly underdressed.
Take them all off. Something for the knees.
David, I didn't realise that was part of the requirements of a leadership campaign to do a script show, but if that's necessary, then I'm sure we can get that down on the screen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Ed. Yes, I do know you, and at least I can sound like Tom early on. You're not yet fired, so it's okay. And I'd like to thank Joe Jenkins, if he's still here, or is he still drinking his woes in the pub. I know what it's like when he said he's got knives in his back. They're probably being taken out of his at the moment and shoved very firmly in mine. But as a wolf, it'll take a few more blades than that to knock me down. Like you, I'm hoping that we're looking forward to Jamie and Ed carrying on the kind of tears and smiles that we saw early on. And I too would like to say a big thanks to Jill for all the work that she has done. I know she's done a tremendous job. It's kind of hard to believe that only 3 years ago I was addressing you all, not here, I can't remember whether it was London or the rest of it, in terms of the whole movement of YI. We've been on a journey together. It's been exciting, it's been energetic. You have all been part of an amazing and emotional part of this nation's history. You have, like us, and like many of our members, have taken the abuse from those who didn't see the brighter side our nation could have once we left the European Union. Like me, no doubt, you've heard the name calling for simply standing up for some beautiful words as liberty, some stunning phrases as democracy, some things that encapsulate what seeps into our heart, the very 7-letter word of freedom. And I think in that journey, I should look around to all of you sat next to you. I think you should look at your colleagues and your friends, and I think you should turn around and smile at them and say, yes, we did it. In the words of Obama, yes, we can. We got our nation back. We brought freedom, independence and democracy into the vocabulary of this nation once more, and we can say that we stood up for history, we in this room and everybody else in UKIP. So give yourself a big thanks, look to your neighbour and say, we did it. We did it. But it's important to remember, isn't it, that along this journey that we had, we didn't do it simply alone. We did it with the support of the 4 million of us that voted for UKIP and those that had never voted before. We did it because this party was established 20 years ago by a small band of committed Democrats who saw a much brighter and happier future. We did it because there were individuals in that party and in this party that carried out that vision. And I don't think any of us, whether we've agreed with all the decisions ever been made, or whether we championed them to the full, should ever forget the commitment that our leader, Nigel Farage, did for this party, to take us from those committed Democrats to a party that won at the European election when they said we couldn't, that took us on to 500 councillors when they said that we wouldn't have any, that got us to 4 million in the general election when they said our lives were over, and that led us, despite the abuse, to him and his family and his friends, to stand alongside and lead us to win that referendum. I want to give a big hand to Nigel Farage for helping us. But it's funny, isn't it? They say now, what is the use of UKIP? Why are we here? What is our purpose? Well, I just kind of smile at them. I used this phrase the other day that they thought that the UKIP fox has been shot. To name one of our favourite friends, Winston McKenzie, when he was around us. But I will say, The wolf is here to make sure that this party goes from strength to strength. Our wolf pack will make sure that our nation continues on its journey of liberty. I am standing for the leadership of this party because I believe in the future of this party to challenge the Conservatives, remove Labour as the second party in this country, and to ensure that everybody in this country's voice is heard with new policies, a brighter future into this century. Because if you entrust me with your vote, if you entrust me as your leader of this great party, I will be a strong voice for the 17 million people who voted to leave. Brexit must mean Brexit. No backsliding, no sidestepping, and certainly no Brexit light with a 7-year moratorium period. If this government starts wriggling, UKIP stands ready to hold its feet to the fire, because the British people voted to leave the European Union, and what the British people voted for, the British people must get. But I want to be the person who leads this party into a new era for a new Britain. I want to build on Nigel's success. I want to build on your success and enhance UKIP's place as the major party, as a political party that champions all in Britain. But to do so, we must professionalise. We must restructure our constitution, our offices, and our governing structure. And today I say that we must abolish the National Executive Committee for Because in a modern party, we must look at what was good then, but is no longer good now. And I believe that we should have now a new People's Forum, a forum of elected regional chairmen that have come from the elected chairman of our branches, who can stand in a forum underneath a professionalised, structured core of divisions that represent our party all over. For those chairmen, you will now be able to say, I work hard, I've worked hard for this party, I now have the opportunity to rise through the ranks just as anybody else. And I will sit on a committee with the chairman, the leader of the party, and help formulate our policy and ensure that the rest of the party is controlled in a structure that looks just for a new party in the future. I welcome that opportunity to bring people power from the bottom up to the top. And with a bright message and a new policy, we'll have new faces. Because I promise you that if elected, I will have a structure that includes the equivalent of a shadow cabinet. Because if we are going to challenge the Conservative Party, if we're going to replace the Labour Party, we must have competent people who can take a brief and formulate that brief and talk to our other members in that party and be able to challenge them regularly on their own. Because I believe in a collegiate environment that ensures that the best in our party, and there are so many, should have their opportunity to show the people of this country how great we are. And I will also make this promise to you. On that shadow cabinet will be a voice for the younger people in our party and the younger people of our nation by having someone from YI sitting on that. Because I can tell you, the message of independence, the message of democracy, the message of freedom isn't just for those who are old, or those who are middle-aged, or those for young. This isn't the message of the Remainers that simply said only young people voted to remain and the rest of them should go by the wayside. They were stupid, they were thick, they were idiotic. Oh no, that is not our belief. Our belief is that those people who voted to leave this country, whatever age they were, had a true belief that this country is great and we will represent them, not divide them like the Remainers. But in order to make a breakthrough, and a major breakthrough, at that in Westminster, we must also ask ourselves that it's not just the voters of the Shires who voted to leave, but we must also direct our attacks to that of the Labour Party. And to those Labour voters out there who have been derided, who made questions about immigration and were simply called bigots, who carried the beautiful flag of England on their windows and were insulted by their own politicians, who were told that they were stupid or thick, as we've heard so many times. I will tell those voters, ignore the Parliamentary Labour Party, who has simply been a career opportunity from those leaving elitist universities or simply training in Parliament. UKIP is your new home, and we will be supporting you all the way. Our country will become a free and independent nation, trading with the world, engaging with the world. A proud and prosperous future awaits, and new opportunities lay before us. Because I want to champion the British dream. I want to give every young person in the country the chance to thrive, the chance to climb the ladder of social mobility in the same way that I did from the streets of Manchester, not far away from here. And that is why I want to see a grammar school in every town, starting in 50 of the most deprived boroughs in this country. I recognise that isn't going to be enough to change the decades, absolute decades, of social immobility that have been looked over by the Conservative Party and the Labour parties combined. And that is why today I will also propose a new scheme. We will call it Educate, an independent fund supported by charitable donations, British industry, the higher education system, and some funding from state funding to support young people from low-income backgrounds or those unable to afford to go to university, and to pursue work placement schemes and to pay for their tuition fees on work placement schemes as well. I do not want bright students from poor backgrounds, kids who are good enough to do academic subjects at the best universities, to pay a penny in tuition fees if we can. And that must be an ultimate goal for ourselves. But I want to say to big business, across a variety of industries, you have a responsibility to also help provide accessible internships and work experience for those people who don't want to go to university, who can't afford to go, who are happy to use their hands and skills as well, and come from low-income families too. I want to make it a statutory requirement for big employers to offer work placements where they can to young people from those backgrounds, from accountants to building firms, television companies to plumbing firms. Not just those who succeed academically, but those who are talented technically and vocationally. No one in this country is better than another. We all have our skills, we all have our abilities, and we all have our own personal dreams, which we in UKIP will help fulfil. This is a country that opens ourselves to all. This is a party that believes in all young people and their dreams, and we will make it happen wherever and wherever we can. And then there is our party. We must get more young people involved. And I know when I'm looking across here, and I've seen the great work that you've done over the time to move from 1,000 to 4,000, wherever Tom is as well. It was your work, your ability, backed a little bit by others, but you did it on your own back. And you did it with everybody else in this room. And everybody else in this room did it by building the branches too. I was there with you, on the streets campaigning with you. And I saw the energy that you put in all the by-elections, delivering the leaflets and knocking on doors too. I saw you on the street stalls. I saw you encouraging and engaging with the people of our country. I saw you saying, there is a bright world out there, ignore the doommongers. So I want to say to you, I believe in you just as you believe in Britain. And so that whilst we must change and adapt to succeed, we should not forget who we are and what unites us as a party. And let's summarise some of those. We believe in freedom, and we are the only party that believes we can only succeed as a nation when we all succeed together, from the landscape gardener to the landed gentry. We're a party that doesn't shy away from talking about the big issues we face as a country, but rather a party that faces them head on. We are a party that seeks to provide a voice to the vulnerable and those who wish to make a success of their lives. We give aspiration to all. We seek small businesses to be able to challenge those of others. We don't support the corporates who use regulations to kill those competitors from the talented individuals who set off on their own. We are the party of the aspirational working person in this country. And let me tell you as leader, I will not shy away from those big issues, and we know what those issues are, and we see the concerns of our people when we see the lives being lost in France, Belgium, and also in Germany. We won't shy away from the issues of immigration too, but we will have a different tone, a more directed message from people who have the skills and the ability to take that forward. We must challenge Labour in the north and the Conservatives in the south. We must ensure the Liberal Democrats don't rise from the ashes they allowed themselves to go into. We must challenge the SNP when they decide that they want to have policies as stupid as putting somebody in charge of our own family's children. Together, let's take our party forward. Let's make for a successful new era for a new Britain. Let's champion the people of Britain in a free Britain, in a bright future. That is why I want to lead you. Thank you very much.
Taking questions for any of the niche candidate speakers because we've got a hostings act, so we'll move straight on to the next speaker. The next speaker is a UKIP member, but he's here on behalf of Friends of the British Overseas Territories. It's Greg Rodwell.
Hello everyone. The UK's relationship with our overseas territories has a long, proud, though sometimes overlooked history. Brexit provides a once-in-a-generation opportunity to re-engage with our territories, boost their profile and learn from their expertise outside the European Union. But I have to tell you that this is not guaranteed. It would be all too easy for the government to consider the territories last in their negotiations. This is where we all can make a difference. By talking about our territories, taking an interest, visiting them, and joining organisations like FOTBOP and other organisations which look at the territories, we can make sure that our territories are on the political agenda and are not just a footnote. How many of you knew that there are in fact 16 British overseas territories stretching from the Pacific to the Indian Ocean, the South Atlantic and the Caribbean? They're as varied as the sovereign base areas in Cyprus with no actual citizens, to the Pitcairn Islands, which is only 56 people, to the Falklands with 2,000 and Gibraltar with 40,000. There are 250,000 British citizens living in the territories and they cover 670 square miles, Now, just by comparison, the United Kingdom is just 94 square miles. So it is a fantastic area with lots of people living in it that is often forgotten. Most of the territory is in fact in the Antarctic, but it's a fact that not many people know, but in fact a third of all the penguins on the Earth are British. Now, when I start talking about Brexit, the first place, of course, to mention is Gibraltar. It's our only territory which is within the European Union. And of course, I'm sure you'll all know that 97% of them voted to remain within the European Union. Now, that might seem overwhelming, but by Gibraltarian standards, that's 1% less than the 98% who voted no to joint sovereignty in 2002. There are unique circumstances for Gibraltar. It is within living memory of most Gibraltarians that the border was closed. I think Franco did that in the 1930s, and the border has always been the lifeblood for thriving Gibraltar. Bad as the EU might seem to us, it was an important tool for the Gibraltarian government, while our Foreign Office handed over meaningless rebukes to the Spanish government. It is essential for Gibraltar and for the Spanish people who live next to Gibraltar that there is free business travel between our two nations. The current Parti Populaire government is no stranger to sabre rattling and tomfoolery at the border or in British territorial waters. The government needs to step up and work within NATO to show the Spanish that border problems benefit nobody but the politicians. Looking further afield, the Caribbean territories are concerned by the fact that the UK government had no plans post-Brexit. They would like to see like-for-like replacement of current EU grants for small businesses and maritime biodiversity. Looking to the South Atlantic, leaving the EU will enable our territories to take back full control over our rich South Atlantic fishing grounds. It is a fact that we did not know ourselves until last year that EU vessels are in fact allowed to take fish all the way down to the Falkland Islands, South Georgia and to the Antarctic territory. These waters hold an immensely rich resource which we need to manage responsibly. There is up to 60 billion barrels of oil in the Falkland Islands, and the weight of the fish and the other animal life in the South Atlantic that we can harvest responsibly is the same weight as the entire population of the world. So there's a lot of stuff down there. The 250,000 British citizens in the territories are just as proud to be British as you are, but they have their nationality questioned every day, not only by countries that would seek to overtake them, but by their own fellow countrymen. Imagine if most British people had no idea you were British, or thought that your land was just a tax haven. We in Bot want to change this. We want people to feel welcome within the British family, and we need your help. There are 2,000 overseas territory students currently at British universities, and we need to let them feel welcome and feel at home. And FOTBOT has societies at many universities across the country, and you can meet people from British Virgin Islands, Gibraltar, all across the Caribbean. We also make statements to newspapers or political parties that make misleading statements about the overseas territories. The Labour Party is just one of them. But, we need to convince at FOTBOT, and I think we all need to convince the next generation of leaders that they need to care about the territories and know that if we work together, we can achieve great things. Leadership in global financial markets, first-class tourism, world-leading science from biology in the Antarctic to volcanology in Montserrat and geology in the Falklands. Our territories have too often been at the back of the queue when considering foreign policy. This has to change. The overseas territories are an absolutely fantastic opportunity for our businesses. Their locations next to the United States and the South American and Central American countries provide excellent staging posts for British companies seeking larger investments in the Americas. However, we have yet to be convinced of the new government's approach. The new Minister for the British Overseas Territories, Baroness Annelly, also holds briefs on Foreign Office business in the Lords, the Commonwealth, the Caribbean, human rights, the UN and other international organisations, climate change, and international energy security policy. And if her Twitter feed is anything to go by, she doesn't really have much interest in the overseas territories. This is why organisations such as FOTBOT exist. We must not break trust with our fellow countrymen and let them think that we do not care, that their birthright does not matter. Please join FOTBOT to cement their future in the British family. With our faith, we will be able to transform our threadbare ties to bonds of steel that will never be broken. A short video from
Well, was a really wonderful way of getting listen to you about the overseas territories to a broad audience.
About friendship. It's friendship to meet people like myself who are from overseas territories and people who are interested in learning about the overseas territories. So, friendship.
It brings the overseas territories to the next generation. We should go and visit them. Support them. Be tourists.
I think Friends of the British Overseas Territories seeks to raise awareness of the fact that these people do exist and that they're very much part of the British family.
There's very, very, very few people in the general public that know about these incredible overseas territories and their people, wildlife, history and culture. So it's just a brilliant platform of getting that message out to a broad audience.
In fact, I'll speak to you as a representative of Gibraltar. We are totally behind you and we will support you all the way. And I'm sure my colleagues from the other OPs will feel exactly the same way as I do.
So, how can you help? So, you can join Friends of British Overseas Territories. I've got membership packs with me. And you get this smart little badge. I think Mr. Sumner is a member, and we've got several other members I recognise in the audience here. You can come to our exclusive membership-only events, apply for roles on the FOTBOT board. So, if you've got any particular areas that you're interested in, we're looking for someone who can write pieces on the history of the overseas territory, specifically relating to the First World War. We hold events all over the country, as well as in the overseas territories, and you get a chance to meet students. So you might meet someone from St Helena, there's only 200 people on the island, and you know it's a great place to be, invite you back to see their family as well. And you can also have the opportunity to come to our annual Gibraltar trip, which we organise every year. We take young people from the United Kingdom to meet people from Gibraltar, and it's on Gibraltar Day, which is an absolutely massive festival there. And it's when the Treaty of Utrecht, I think, was signed in 1713, when Gibraltar first became British. And we also run an annual trip to a Caribbean territory. This year, the guys went to Turks and Caicos, and last year they went to Bermuda, so you get to meet the governor, the Premier, and all the important people on the island as well as being a fantastic location. So please come and speak to me afterwards and join FOTBOT. It's a fantastic organisation. You meet some really great people, and we're making a difference. You know, we've already had premiers and come to talk to us and say, we need people, because these people feel very British, but they don't really feel as if people in the United Kingdom care, because you've got the Foreign Office and you've got all the official departments, but that could all change very quickly. So we need sort of lots of organisations. There's the Overseas Territories Wildlife Trust, which looks at the wildlife in the islands as well. So please get involved. I think we've got time for questions.
Yep, got any questions in the audience? Anyone? Oh yeah, Sam?
Greg, it's absolutely no criticism of you and of FOTBOT. I know you do fantastic work. And you were very diplomatic about Gibraltar, but to me that was the one bad moment of that glorious morn of 24th of June. And, you know, had it been, say, 60-40 or something, I could have understood that because I knew huge pressure put on. But I supported Gibraltar fanatically for a long time, and I felt really betrayed, I have to say, by that 97% vote. And I don't see why we should be too bothered about a place that has shown so little concern for the interests of the United Kingdom.
Well, I think that, I mean, they would, if you were to ask Gibraltarians, would they prefer to be part of the United Kingdom outside the European Union, you'd get a clear majority saying our links with Britain are more important than the links with the European Union. But Spain is just over the border, and they've been able to use the European Union to attack the Spanish government with. So, you know, people, you know, it's very important to them, the border being open. But if you ask them, you know, it's, you know, just because, you know, half the people in the UK voted to remain doesn't mean they're not British or they don't care about the country. So, I think that if the Foreign Office sort of steps up and stops being so weak with the Spanish government, then you'll see a change of opinion in Gibraltar. But I think that, you know, it worked for them. You know, it was one small part of the British family where, you know, it was a good thing for them. But I think that we need to step up and make really sure that we make it work, because yeah, I disagree. I don't think it was a betrayal. I think it was, yeah, they were looking in their interest, because quite frankly, the British government has forgotten them for too long. So you can hardly blame them for sort of looking elsewhere. That's why sort of organisations such as ours are important.
Anyone else?
This has puzzled me since the actual referendum, and I was wondering if you could answer. Why is it that Gibraltar almost unanimously voted to remain?
Well, as I said before, because they've always had problems with the Spanish border being closed, and because of freedom of movement, the EU has been telling the Spanish off because of this. So actually the EU has been helping them, because they've said, you know, the Spanish, you can't do this because, you know, we've got, you know, Schengen and all that. So it's been a useful tool to them to prevent the Spanish encroaching on them. So that's the reason why they've been so, you know, there's not a great love for Euro-federalism in Gibraltar. It's specifically the border issue, and that the fact that most of their funding and most of their sort of, a lot of their revenue comes in from Spanish people coming over the border. So I think that, you know, if there was another organisation, if NATO or the Commonwealth were being more forceful about this, then you'd see a different response.
I think we've got to move on now, but thanks, Greg, anyway. Thanks. Next up, we have North East MEP and prospective leadership candidate, Jonathan Arnott, MEP.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me to speak at this year's Young Independence Conference. I joined UKIP in 2001, and at that party conference, I have to say, I was probably pretty much the only person in the room under the age of 40. In a way, at that time, I kind of was young independents. And can I say this, you've come a very, very long way since then. I know that there's probably a few faces in this room of people who don't actually know me, so what I'm going to start by doing is just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from the north of England. My background is somewhere between working class and middle class. My granddad was a farmer and a policeman after fighting in World War II. My mum and dad were teachers. My brother is ex-army, now has a small business and drives lorries. And my father-in-law was a coal miner. I'm the one who sort of broke the trend a little bit. I'm the guy who went to university at the age of 15. So think of me as sort of a slightly geeky guy who got my master's degree 3 years early. So if you watch The Big Bang Theory, please don't think of me as some sort of cross between Leonard and Sheldon. If I were, I'd be at Manchester Comic-Con down the road. There is a bit of the geeking up. But I'm also the sort of person who loves sports. I've done football commentaries on hospital radio for the last 20 years. I'm pretty clued up on cricket. My dad always used to say that his dream was that his son would go on one day to be the captain of Yorkshire. And his dream was finally realised, but unfortunately for him, not at cricket, it was at chess. So I'm a former teacher, I'm an author, I spent 6 years as General Secretary of UKIP, and now I'm a member of the European Parliament. And that's pretty much who I am. I'm not your sort of typical cardboard cutout, cookie cutter career politician. I got the tongue twister right for once. And I don't think that's what UKIP's about either. I think what UKIP is about is people who don't fit that stereotype of politics. So let's talk a bit about politics. Perhaps you've heard words like these, maybe from friends or family. Words like these. If UKIP were people like you, I'd vote UKIP. But you're not. These are the people who believed what they've heard in the media, this idea that we're some sort of dog whistle, borderline racist party. And if you're anything like me, you'll come across people like that constantly, all the time. You'll be sick of hearing it. How you're somehow the only person in UKIP who is talking common sense and all the rest are completely wrong. And you probably hear a variation of that all the time. But they somehow know and respect you. And I just think, if you look to the left of you, if you look to the right of you, and then if you look back at yourself, you're not going to see that snarling image of UKIP that is portrayed all over the media. I certainly don't see that. UKIP is people like you and me. People who care about the future of our nation. And I've even depressingly heard those words come out of the mouths of people who voted to leave the European Union. People who voted for Brexit, but wouldn't even consider voting UKIP at present. And actually, when you talk to those people, they agree with us. They agree with our policies. As long as we present our policies in the right, positive way, they agree with everything that we have to say. But yet they still have this negative image of UKIP as a party. It's not the policies that we really need to change. Yes, there may be some little tweaks here and there, but it's not the policies generally that need to be changed. What we need to get right is our messaging. What we need to get right is aiming at the 13.6 million people out there who voted Brexit but didn't vote UKIP at the last general election. That's 13.6 million people who are our natural core target voters, and we haven't reached them yet. In fact, if I'm brutally honest, and telling some home truths, in the last few weeks, we've lost between a third and a quarter of our support in the polls. We've gone from averaging 17% of the vote back down to our core general election vote. Now, we can do one of two things. We can either kid ourselves that the whole garden is completely rosy in UKIP, that nothing needs to change, or we can stand up for what we believe in and we can do something about it. And I think one of the big reasons that we've lost some support since the referendum is that people don't truly know what we stand for. Yes, they knew what we stood for in the European Union, but we've won that debate as far as they see. They knew what we stood for to an extent on immigration, although maybe they have seen a caricature and a stereotype of that rather than the truth. They know that, but they don't know much else. And we can fix that. It's pretty simple to fix that. We start talking about what we stand for. We tell people that we're a low-tax party. We tell people that we're the party that is going to be serious about dealing with crime on the streets. We start telling people that we're the party that is going to fix our broken education system. And yes, more grammar schools is a part of that, but there's a whole shed load of other things that we need to do if we're going to make our education system one that is fit for the 21st century. We need to start talking to the people that we haven't talked to before. The people, the demographics that UKIP has never appealed to because we've not talked about their issues. We need to be the party that will talk about bringing power back from Brussels to Westminster, yes. But we don't stop there. We take that power from Westminster and we put it back into the hands of the British people themselves, which we believe that the best people to govern this country are the people of this country. And we would be hypocrites if we opposed anything that's undemocratic in Brussels, but then didn't oppose anything that's undemocratic in Westminster too. We truly are the party of people power. And we need to tell people that we're the party that wants the government to stay well and truly out of interfering in our daily lives. And I think, to put it bluntly, the party is actually, as a party, just woken up to something. And I think we've just woken up to something that since 2005, 2006, I've been banging this drum. Our potential for a breakthrough, our real potential right now, is in working class areas. These are the people who they feel that the Conservatives despise them, and they despise the Conservatives. These are the people who feel that the Labour Party has abandoned them, that maybe once back in the 1950s, maybe the Labour Party stood for people like them. But today, there is a huge disconnect between them and the politicians. So, we've got to talk a lot about how we're going to reach out to working class people. Because I believe this party is now completely aware that that's what we're going to have to do. If we're not just going to park our tanks on Theresa May's lawn, not just march the People's Army right up to Westminster, but actually to stand for people whilst we're there. And to say that just like in Brussels, no longer will a political establishment be able to ignore the people. That will not happen when UKIP is in town. And we've got to talk their language. We can't use buzzwords. Some of the things that I've said today, you might say, well, that's libertarian stuff. But you can't use words like libertarian political philosophies, because once you start talking about them, you've lost people. If you talk about stopping the government interfering with their daily lives, they're going to listen. But when you start using phrases like libertarian, social mobility, you lose people because their experience of those phrases is that they've heard the political establishment are the ones that say it. Yeah. And they know they can't trust that political establishment. And they hear us talking like that, they think we're like them. And we are not. So let's start talking about our positive vision for the future. Let's tell people we're the party that is going to stand up for those people whose lives are most likely to be devastated by crime, the people who find there's no good school for their kids to go to, the people who live in the areas where it's hardest to find a good GP, those same working people. Let's talk about our vision to rebuild our manufacturing, to rebuild our decimated fisheries, to do something about the steel industry that is currently being destroyed. Let's tell people we're going to reverse the EU and UK government policies that have left communities like Redcar in my constituency feeling abandoned. Let's tell people we're the party that's going to help small businesses to grow. The party that actually recognises that if you help small business, if those small businesses grow, not only do they create jobs for working people, it also brings tax revenue back into the exchequer, and it's good for everybody. So we need to stop interfering with our small businesses and let them get on and do what they do best, which is creating jobs and making money. The media asks us almost every day, what is UKIP's role in a post-Brexit UK? Well, here it is. A party that shows a beacon of hope for how we can make Britain great again in the next few years. We don't need socialist policies to reach out to former Labour voters. The UKIP policies we already have can take on the mantle of a Labour Party that has alienated the very people its name purports to represent. And so that's where we're heading as a party. Remember that number, 13.6 million. They are the target for us. The 13.6 million people who don't vote UKIP, but did vote Brexit. We know they are people who are on our side. They are people we can bring over to our cause. And I'm all for winning those votes, whether they're Labour, whether they're Green, whether they're Conservative, whether they're Lib Dem. Even some who are SNP and Plaid Cymru, I'm sure we can bring over to us. And if we can start bringing those across to us, that's when UKIP will be a force for the future in British politics. We don't need to change the core of our UKIP. And I've put my heart and soul into that over the last 15 years. We just need to get our messaging right for the post-referendum Britain. So I'll talk briefly about the elephant in the room before I finish. We were all shocked, some of us surprised, and lots of us quite nervous when Nigel Farage announced his resignation as party leader earlier this month. Nigel, the greatest orator in British politics, the man who delivered a referendum for us in the first place, the man who was at the helm of UKIP when we made that breakthrough to become Britain's third party. And he said it's time for a new leader. And I think for all the sadness that I and most of us here feel, for the hole that's left inside by that, I suppose if Nigel feels that the time is right for the torch to pass on to a new generation, who am I to second guess that? But if we're at the end of one era, we are at the start of a new. So, I suppose if I were you, I'd want to know what are my qualifications and experience for the job of UKIP leader. So I'm going to finish with 5 reasons why you should vote for me for the UKIP leadership. I'm going to start with the controversial one as number 1. I'm nothing like Nigel Farage. See, I figure that no one on this planet is going to be able to out-Nigel Nigel. And anyone who tries to do that is going to fall flat on their face. So my leadership style will be completely different, and frankly, that's out of respect for Nigel. You know, they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. No, it's not. The sincerest form of flattery is saying Nigel is someone that nobody can imitate. If we don't follow Nigel with a completely different style of leader, we're in big trouble. Secondly, I'm the only candidate in this election that has got the combination of experience inside and outside the party that we need. So, I've been involved at grassroots level from 15 years ago when I joined the party to building a branch from scratch at a time when we were on 1% in the polls. I've delivered over 500,000 leaflets and knocked on countless doors. I know what that's like, just like you do. And I've done that year in, year out until we made that breakthrough. Never forget the grassroots of this party. The new leader needs to understand the internal party structures very, very well at the moment. There are no simple answers for the difficulties within our internal structures at the moment. There are no easy, simple solutions, and any change will require constitutional change, balance of members, 2/3 majority, and so on. That will be very difficult to achieve. We need to do it properly. I have 6 years of experience as General Secretary. I know the party's rule book better than anyone. If anyone can get that through in the right way, I can. And there needs to be someone with a shed load of media experience. Somebody who's debated at the highest level. I've done the Newsbeat economics debate, the general election, I did the education debate. I've spoken in the Parliament, the European Parliament, not a real one, more than any other British MEP. More than any other British MEP of any party since I was elected. We need a candidate who's tried and tested in the media and tried and tested at some kind of parliamentary level. You'll find other candidates with any one of those 3 things. Maybe 2 of those 3 things. There's no other candidate who's got all of those 3 things. Third reason, party unity and team building. What I did as General Secretary was all about keeping this party together, holding things together, keeping things moving, stopping us being sued, getting everyone on the same side, bringing out the best in people. Believe me, that's what we need at the moment as a party. Fourthly, we need a safe pair of hands. If you Google me, you'll find nearly 1,000 parliamentary speeches and hundreds of newspaper, radio and TV interviews, but not one where I've been caught out or caught saying or doing anything stupid. I promise you I've got a better chance of bringing unity to this party than any other candidate. Finally, reason 5. If you want UKIP to appeal to young people, put your money where your mouth is. If you elect me as UKIP leader, I will be the youngest leader of any major political party since William Pitt. Shouldn't matter. Whether you're 18 or 80 shouldn't make a difference. But to the media, sadly, it does, in a way. I'm fed up of being told that UKIP only appeals to older people. The media love to do that to us, don't they? Well, you know what? They can't do it anymore if you elect the youngest leader of a major political party for 200 years. So, if you choose me as leader, I'll be many things. I'll be determined, I'll be passionate, I'll be positive, I'll be hard-working, I'll be team-building. But I'm so sorry to disappoint you. There's one thing that I will never be. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Jonathan, for that great speech. And oh no. There we go. Okay, that's technology. Next up is a random Swedish guy I met last night. We're blessed to have Tobias Anderson here, the Swedish Democrats Youth Chairman. He's come over all the way to speak here at this conference, so big round of applause to Tobias.
I'm not sure Manchester would be the first place to visit if I was just a random Swedish guy, but anyway, thank you for letting me speak here today. My name is Tobias Anderson, and I'm the National President for Young Swedes, the youth organization belonging to the Sweden Democrats. Don't mistake the Young Swedes for the old youth organization, the Swedish Democratic Youth. They got kicked out from the mother party last year. You probably have heard of Sweden, even though it's one of the few countries that you guys haven't invaded yet. Instead, Swedes and other Vikings are one of the few peoples that actually have invaded you. And I suppose that only the Romans were as successful as the Vikings here on British soil. But there's no need to worry. I'm not here to steal your belongings, occupy your houses, or attack your woman. I suppose you have enough foreigners doing that already. Perhaps the one thing you know about Sweden is Vikings, failed migration politics, and that there actually exist girls there who willingly date Joe Jenkins. Anyway, since I'm here, I thought I should inform you a bit more about the beautiful country of mine. Sweden doesn't only have beautiful girls. I see you from face, but we have good-looking guys as well. But we also have fantastic nature and animals, many of them quite delicious, to be honest. During the early times of industrializations, Sweden was a poor and ill country, with bad housing, bad working conditions, and an almost non-existing healthcare. But what we did have, though, was a working spirit, a common culture, and a moral band between the citizens. And if you do combine those factors, you get what we got in Sweden. A successful industrialized country with a fantastic welfare system, big global companies, and a strong economy. But most of all, a country with a strong majority culture, that all the inhabitants were a part of and appreciated. The social capital and the shared values bound us together and was the reason to how we could legitimize our high taxes. But I will end the history lesson there, because it probably all sounds like fiction for you, except though the high taxes. I suppose that you have read Breitbart's article and so on about the situation in Sweden today, and obviously have some understanding for the situation we're in. In the year 1975, our parliament agreed on creating a multicultural Sweden. And I suppose that the naive socialists at that time thought it was a good idea. Today, though, we see the result from this, and it's a complete disaster. Sweden today is the rape capital of the world. Last week only, there were at least 3 reports to the police about gang rapes. There was a bunch load of charges about sexual assaults at football tournaments and other events that draws a lot of people. And the worst thing, which is something that I still cannot get out of my mind, was that a 14-year-old girl got raped at 1 o'clock in broad daylight. And what does the Swedish establishment do in order to take action against these horrible crimes? Well, first of all, they deny that it would have anything to do with the savagery of other cultures. The fact that the gang rapes were committed close to asylum homes for asylum seekers, and that the festival, which suffered a lot of sexual offences, had hired 3 buses to bring asylum seekers there, is something that they are unable to draw a conclusion from. Instead, a football player commented on all the sexual offences at the football tournament with that the problems were old school Swedish male attitude, which is a weird thing to say, that the most mentioned case of assault was committed by a team from Morocco and their trainer. A psychotherapist who is considered to be an expert on sexual criminals were also allowed to state his opinion on this matter, and you would hope that he would actually come with some true politics and some solvings on all these rapes that we have seen this year in Sweden. Instead, he blamed the good weather. And it's hard to even understand how naive and probably extremely stupid you must be to actually believe in such a thing. Imagine being a girl and then suffer from one of the worst things that ever can happen to you, a rape. And then you have some expert telling you that the reason behind it was the good weather. And I can't speak for everyone, but I do believe that I, in such a case, would rather prosecute rapists than to do a rain dance. And don't mistake me, I'm aware of that your media and your establishment also suffers from political correctness, a love for multiculturalism, and plain stupidity. I mean, I have read some articles from The Guardian. But it's not even close to this, how it looks in Sweden. Swedish media refuses to publish descriptions of foreign criminals, but at the same time, they publish uncensored pictures of regular Swedish people who has written bad things about immigration online. And celebrities who say something that can sound like something we would say will have a hard time keeping their job, and an even harder time trying to explain and apologize to the media when they come hunting for their heads. At the same time, celebrities that spread hatred towards the police or anti-Semitic views and beliefs will just rise in popularity within the establishment. I mean, we have a cultural prize in Sweden in the honor of the communist dictator Lenin. And I could continue to tell you about the situation in Sweden, but I would soon lose my temper and you would probably suffer a heart attack. And I would therefore like to change topic to something positive, something enlightening. That you guys made it. You did what everyone thought was impossible. From the beginning, they laughed at you, they mocked you, they portrayed you like a joke, but you didn't care, did you? You weren't interested in their pathetic opinions about your dream of an independent Britain. You only cared about the future and the well-being of your country. And let me tell you, that is the reason to why you succeeded. Your opponents, on the other hand, they only cared about their private economy, their assets on the stock market, and their utopian dreams of a world without nations and borders. A world in which the people would be ruled by unelected bureaucrats. Bureaucrats that never ever would care about ordinary citizens and their lives. Their only interest would have been to maximize the profits for themselves, the big banks, and the global companies. And we all know that is powerful people we're talking about. Rich people, influential people, dangerous people. But they're not the majority of Britain, that kind of people, and that is what you have showed the world. You showed the world that honest, hard-working, ordinary people are able to defeat and humiliate the establishment. Of course, there is many reasons to your victory, such as the economic burden that your membership created, the fact that your jobs and industries have suffered because of the EU, the migration crisis, the benefit tourism, and so on. But I would like to express my thoughts concerning what I believe to be the main reason to why the British vote leave: their love towards Britain. As a true conservative, it is my strong opinion that feelings of national pride will always outweigh arguments about economic, or in this case, flexibility. It was not the fear of costs that made the British vote leave. Instead, it was the understanding of that money could have been spent in a better way for the well-being of their nation. It was not the fear of huge amount of foreigners that made the British vote leave. Instead, it was the understanding of that your culture, customs, and values has and would continue to change beyond recognition if that immigration would continue. And it was not the fear of other European countries that made the British vote leave. Instead, it was the love of your own. To love your own country has nothing to do with disliking any other country. Because we do not love our own country because it's necessarily better or greater than any other country, but because it is our own. And you guys just got your country back. Once again, you can actually stand up and be proud and tell everyone that this is your own country. That you're in charge of its economics, its politics, but also of its culture and its future. And I believe it was the striving to be proudly be able to say that you have your own country, a country you love and value, that made the British vote leave. And I will forever be happy that you guys brought your country back. I will also forever be grateful for the same reason, because this is the only good development within the European Union that we have seen through decades. Even though there probably will take ages for Sweden to leave, this will actually tell the EU elite that they will need to change their way of doing business. And the debate in Sweden has changed since after Brexit. Of course, there's been some stupid debates about everyone who voted leave is a racist, that the old destroy the future of the young, and that everyone who voted leave had no idea what they did, and everyone has now changed their mind. But still, people have finally been talking about the major role that the European Union plays in Swedish politics, and about how Sweden would be affected if we choose to leave as well. That debate would never have taken place if it weren't for what you guys did, and therefore I will forever be thankful. With that being said, I wish you the best of luck during the coming negotiations with the European Union, and after that I wish you the best of luck when you once again will be able to prosper on your own. I hope that I one day will be able to feel the same strong feelings of independence and pride as you do today. And until that day, I will fight for making that day come. The Sweden Democrats will not rest. Neither will we end our fight for an independent Sweden. No matter how much you love yourself, you're not the only country within Europe that deserves independence. We all do. Our nations and societies has been developing our own culture, customs and way of living through centuries and millenniums. And I'm not ready to give that up to the federalists. The countries within Europe share a lot in common, but that's not because the European Union. It will never benefit our similarities to be a member of that union. What we share is not what has happened during the time of the European Union. What we share is a history that through centuries has bound us together and will continue to do so in the future, no matter of the existence of the European Union. And as a Swede, I identify myself as first and foremost a Swede, secondly a Scandinavian, and third as a European. Therefore, I feel a strong connection to my British brothers and sisters. And believe me when I say that that connection will not be affected of you leaving the European Union. I will always love Sweden, love Britain, love Europe. That's why I am fighting against the European Union, and that's why you have done the same. Your name is Young Independence, and earlier you have just been young, but now you can finally be able to state your entire name as Young and Independent. God bless the Queen. Thank you very much.